Yo, what's going on dudes? Welcome back to the channel. It's Bertrude and today we're using another brand new build number 44. Let's take a look. It's a level 65 build. We've got 45 vigor, 23 mind, 19 strength, 20 intelligence, 25 faith. We're using the Opaline hard tier for the damage negation and the intelligence knot to boost our intelligence so we can use all of our spells. And here's a quick look at the armour and talismans we're using on the build. Take special note of the Stargazer heirloom and the Two Fingers heirloom to boost our intelligence and our faith by 5. We've got two main weapons on the build, the first one being a cold infused great epi, if that's how you pronounce it, and it's got the glint blade phalanx on it. And then we're also using a sacred Zweihander, and that's got the golden lands on it. So we've got one cold infused and one sacred options for our main weapons. Then we've also got a cold infused dagger in our second weapon slot, and that's got endure equipped on it. We're then also using the staff and the seal on this one, so we've got the demi-human queen staff, and then we're also using the golden order seal. We'll be using a mixture between spells and incantations, and these include the magic glint blade, the discus of light, the triple rings of light, the carrion slicer, the shard spiral, and then finally we've got our buff, the golden vow. And that's the build guys. It's a really fun playstyle, but don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content. But it's time for you lot to sit back, relax, get your feet up and enjoy the video. So guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. First off, I'm recording this the day after a very heavy night out me and the wife have just had in Liverpool. We had a lovely time, but we drank a hell of a lot of booze. So my voice may be sounding a little bit worse for wear today, maybe a little bit croaky, but we've all been there, haven't we? We've all had that heavy night where we come back a little bit rough and don't sound at our best. But let me tell you guys, it was well and truly worth it. We had a great time. So, this is a brand new build, as I said, build number 44. The ring stinger, I like to call this guy. The ring enthusiast. He loves those golden rings. He absolutely loves them. And I have to say, right off the bat, that I got the inspiration for this build from one of my all-time favourite content creators, a top bloke by the name of Rofo the Germ. I highly recommend you go and check him out if you don't know of him. You should know of him. He's an absolute quality content creator. He makes some awesome builds, and this build is directly inspired by the Haligtree page build that he made recently and he released a video on. I watched Rofo's video on the Haligtree page and I saw just how much fun and how much success he was having with the Discus of Light and also the Triple Rings of Light. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about the video. I couldn't stop thinking about the build. I started thinking about how to put my own spin on making a build centered around those two spells. I've used them before in other builds, but not really the Discus of Light. I've used it as kind of like an afterthought on one of my builds, but I've never really considered it a very good incantation until I watched Rofo's video, the Haligtree page. And then after seeing that, I knew that it could be done, and I knew that you can actually get some really good work on it. Some good work out of it, sorry. So I knew that I had to do it, guys. So I started thinking how I could put my own spin on these spells, and this is what I came up with. I actually contacted Rofo and said, like, you know, I think I'm going to do my own take on this build if you don't mind, and asked him for a bit of advice. And you know, the absolute legend he is, he gave me some good advice on the leveling for the spells and for the golden order seal, which is actually really good within the certain level ranges I'm using it at to get some good damage. And this is what I came up with, guys, the ring stinger. Just an absolute quality build. I never knew that Discus of Light could be actually this good. This is a level 65 build. I don't know if it would be as good if you took it up to high levels. I think the build that I use it on one of my other builds is like quite high level, level 200 maybe. But as I said, it's an afterthought. I never use it as a prime output of damage on that build. I just kind of threw it on there just for something to play around with. So if you took the Discus of Light up to level 200 and really tried to build into it, maybe it could be just as powerful as it is at this level. But using it on the build in the way I'm doing at the minute at level 65, seems to be going really well. It's like really effective, surprisingly effective. It's got that really cool boomerang effect where you throw the discus out, it goes through them once and then it returns back to you, so it's got a chance to hit them twice. But even if they manage to dodge one of them, it's still got a high chance that it's going to pass back through them on the way back to you and do some decent damage. So you're getting 2 chances to hit it. And when you start mixing that in to your other spell rotation and throwing all kinds of other spells and incantations at them, you know, it's a good way to keep them on the toes. You're gonna land some damage out of all the things that you could throw them on this build, which is why we've got all the other options. You know, we've got the shard spiral, we've got the magic glint blade, we've got the triple rings of light, and then I can rush them down and use the carrion slicer. Not to mention the ashes of war and the weapons that we're using on the build. So it's a kind of really good build to keep them on the toes, keep them guessing, keep active and rush them down. The stat spread is quite wild. It was like a bit of a maths equation trying to figure out how to put everything together for this build. But that's what I like about low level builds, guys. That's what I really enjoy doing. Making a build that you're using spells that require quite a high investment of points and trying to make it work at a lower level. You could easily take this build up to a higher level, you know, not even meta, just like putting another 20 or 30 levels on it, taking it up to level 90. You know, you could easily make it work and not have to worry about the stat investment with the extra stat points you'll have. But I like using it at level 60 because, like I say, it's a real task, kind of putting it all together in order to hit all the points that you need to hit. So we're using the Source Seal to start with, and that's giving us extra points in our strength and dex, which is going to help us cover the requirements for our weapons. And then we're also using the Stargazer heirloom and the Two Fingers heirloom to give us that extra 5 points in faith and intelligence. We're then using the intelligence knot in our flask, which gives us a boost to our intelligence, allowing us to use the shard spiral. And that covers everything, guys. It was a bit of a top up initially when it came to the Source Seal, whether I was going to use Radagon's or Marika's Source Seal. I weren't quite sure which one to go with, but I thought you just can never go wrong with Radagon's Source Seal. Marika's Source Seal is obviously good, but I felt like I'd be wasting 5 points in the arcane. I didn't need the points in the arcane on this build. So I thought if I just go with Radagon's Source Seal, which is the one that I usually use on my builds when I'm using the Source Seal, you know, you're making use of everything. The strength, the dexterity, you're getting that health, you know, the extra vigour. So there's no wasted points, do you know what I mean? And then that freed me up to put more points into faith and into intelligence. Now let's just take a look at this invasion. You can see I'm using a different weapon on this one. This is the Watchdog Staff, and this is the weapon that I wanted to focus this build on initially. When I thought that I wanted to use the Discus of Light and the Triple Rings of Light for this build, this is the weapon that I wanted to pair it all with. But, you know, as wild as our stat spread is now, you should have seen it at this point when I was using the Watchdog Staff. The Watchdog Staff requires 34 strength to use, so as well as the Stargazer heirloom and the Two Fingers heirloom, I was also using the Star Scourge heirloom to boost our strength by 5. And overall I just had a lot less points in vigour and less points in mind, so I was taking a lot more damage, and I was finding that I was running out of FP quite often because I didn't have that spare pointage to put into mind, which is quite important on this build. Discus of Light doesn't cost a lot to cast, but when I'm mixing Discus of Light into the other spells as well as the Ashes of War, it does start to take effect. And this invasion actually went quite well. You can see I managed to kill the horse there. But overall, when I was using this weapon, it was doing good damage, but I was just taking too much damage. Obviously, I've got Radagon's Source Seal on, and I'm using the Boiled Crab in the Opaline Hardtier. But that lack of vigour that I had, I'm currently got 45 vigour, but when I was using that weapon, I think I had 36 vigour. And, you know, and that weren't with the Crimson Amber Medallion +2 as well, so, you know, minus the lack of vigour and minus the Crimson Amber +2, you can see that I'm struggling when it comes to the vigour pool for this build, considering I'm using the Source Seal. So I knew that the overall sensible thing to do for the build, the best thing to do for the build, was to sub out the Watchdog Staff and bring in the Zweihander. And in doing that, it freed up a lot more points because the Zweihander's a lot less stat intensive, and I use those extra points to give myself a bit more vigour and a bit more mind. And the Zweihander does really good damage on its own. We all know the Zweihander's a really good weapon. And I've got that golden land on it as well. So like I say, I've got that really hard hitting option when it comes to difficult ganks. Overall, the best thing to do for the build, and I noticed a big improvement on win rate after I made that change. As much as I wanted to use the Watchdog staff, it just weren't working for the build, so I knew I had to make the change. But this invasion in the background was a funny one. I invaded these guys, and we just had this massive, crazy fight around this avatar. The big boy with his big old bonk weapon, he doesn't care who he's hitting, but he's just hitting anyone he can hit, and it causes an absolute chaotic invasion. We're all just getting flown all over the place, but these two, fair play to them, they don't choose to run off into a bit of a clearing to get some space and get away from him. We all just decide to stay around here and have the most chaotic invasion you've ever seen, and it was absolutely glorious. Honestly, this big boy didn't care who the hell he was hitting. We're all getting knocked all over the place throughout this whole invasion, and it was honestly a lot of fun. The ending to this one's coming up now, watch this. We all just die in a pool of glorious mush after we got squashed by that big boy's big weapon. Look at him. Look at him, he's done a good job there. You've done a good job, pal. Well done, we're all dead. We are all dead. GG's. This was a bit of a weird invasion. I invaded these two. The summon died while I was trying to get up to find a host, so it was just me and the host in the end. And I was running around this castle at Greyroll here for ages trying to find the host. He got stuck behind here, and I didn't realise that there was actually a ladder here where you can climb out. I didn't know there was a ladder here because I usually just go down there for the source seal and then let the rat kill me. But I didn't realise you could actually get out of there. But anyway, it took me about 10 minutes. I climbed up and went down. He weren't there. He'd climbed up and come back out the front. So I climbed back up, came out the front, and then after about 10 minutes of searching, I finally found him. And we get down to a nice little one-on-one here. I'm using the Great Epi, and it's got that Glintblade Phalanx Ash of War on it. Now, I could have used the Glintblade Phalanx just as a spell on the build, but I kind of wanted it as the Ash of War because I think the Glintblade Phalanx costs 22 or 25 intelligence as a spell, if I'm not mistaken. So I didn't want to have that as a spell and then lose access to it after 3 minutes once my flask runs out. So I thought if I keep it on as an Ash of War on the Great Epi, I'm going to be able to use it for the whole of the invasion no matter how long it lasts, even if it goes over 3 minutes. So I'm just thinking of it as like an extra spell I can use in the rotation. Plus I just think it's a pretty cool option to have as an Ash of War on a weapon rather than a spell. And obviously the Great Epi is a heavy thrusting sword, so you've got them really good lunging attacks. Really does suit this build because I can put you under a lot of pressure with all the spells and the incantations and the rotation that I'm using. And then I've got the Great Epi out in a one-on-one. It's really difficult for you to get any space because I've got such a good reach. I've got such a good running lunging attack. Cold infused as well. The Zweihander is sacred infused. The Great Epi is cold infused. I think it's quite a nice little mix, but they're both doing good damage with our stat investment on the build, so it's not like one is better option than the other when it comes to sacred or cold. But yeah, the Great Epi being cold infused, it's obviously got a chance to proc frost, which is also going to do some good damage, so it's just a really good weapon to have on the build. Yeah, not one I've used before. I've not used heavy thrusting swords that much, but I've really enjoyed it, to be honest. The Great Epi has been a great weapon to use. This was a bit of a mad invasion. You can see the host is quite laggy, but my connection with the summon is absolutely fine, so I weren't too fussed about it. It's never ideal when you get someone who's really laggy, but it never tilts me too bad. I know some people get really annoyed about lag, but I don't think there's much you can do about it sometimes. I think it's just the nature of online gaming. I've said that before, but I don't think there's any reason to stress. You just try and do your best and try and make the most out of the invasion. It is what it is. You can see the clever little switch to the Zweihander. They were both coming at me pretty hard. And the actual projectiles there from the Golden Land killed the summon while he was behind me. So I didn't actually see him die, but we managed to see him off. And now, I've not spoken about that either, Endure on the dagger. I thought that would help us land the triple rings of light, especially if someone's pushing me. I can use the Endure and that's going to help me poise through and get some good damage off with the triple rings of light when they're getting close. Just another tool on the build that I can use. We're now down to a one-on-one, so I'll switch back to the Great Epi. and try and make the most of those big thrusting attacks. As you can see now, putting it to work straight away. Overall guys, this is just a really fun build. I definitely don't think I've had enough of invading with this one yet. It's really fun. I've definitely not explored the combat style enough to move on. I think I'm going to carry on invading and release another video. But massive shout out to Rofo the Germ. I promise you guys, if you've never seen him before, go and give him a watch. You're going to have a new favourite content creator to keep up with. Trust me, you won't go wrong. You will not be disappointed. He's an absolute quality guy and a really, really smart and clever content creator. But this is the last invasion of the video guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. But I'll see you all soon on the next video.